Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. It is Scott from the LA Biz SOS podcast, brought to you by Save Our Shops, Louisiana. I am live this week. I appreciate you coming in and listening to us. This, this is the place where we talk about keeping Louisiana businesses local, keeping them locally owned, empowering new operators, and preserving legacy through smart transitions. That is the goal. Before we dive into today's episode, I've got two what I think are exciting announcements. One, I submitted my first offer letter this week for a small business right here in Northwest Louisiana. I am under a non disclosure agreement, so I can't give too many details, but it's very exciting. I'll keep you posted as things progress and share information with you as I can. Secondly, I'm launching a new series called Small Towns, Big Louisiana Heart. So, in addition to this regular podcast and the updates that for Save Our Shops Louisiana and our interview series, which I've done the last couple of weeks, interviewing owners and operators. Have a couple of more of those scheduled to coming up. This new series will spotlight small cities and towns across Louisiana, their history, culture, traditions, and of course, the small businesses that make those communities thrive. Um, we are kicking that off next week with episode 10. We're going to feature the Louisiana's oldest town. We'll start there, the town of Natchitoches. If you know any great businesses that I should talk to or highlight in next week's podcast, or you'd like to recommend other towns, put your recommendation in the chat. Love to hear about them and see what we can do. And I hope to visit many of these communities in person and visit the businesses, share that experience with y'all, and talk to the community leaders, business leaders. And so, right now, though, let's get into episode 9, hot topics. And let's start with the generational wave that's reshaping ownership. It's called the Silver Tsunami. Baby boomers own over 2 million businesses in the US, and many of them are ready to retire. By 2030, every baby boomer will be 65 years or older. And here's the challenge is that many of those that are ready to retire or are going to be in a position where they need to retire do not have a succession plan. And approximately 60%, nearly 70% of businesses fail to successfully transition ownership, um, even if they do have a succession plan. So this is where we come in and uh, and hopefully Save Our Shops Louisiana can assist in those Louisiana businesses. Those small businesses contribute over 50% of private sector employment in Louisiana. And what can we do is work with sellers to start planning early. Um, Buyers should look for legacy rich businesses with strong cash flow. That, of course, is our target as well. And sellers need to start, or excuse me, and communities have to support these transitions to keep ownership local. And that means working with local banks, local community leaders, and business organizations to make sure that that transition happens smoothly. So, um, again, I feel in Louisiana, this is especially urgent. The silver tsunami, it's coming in the next few years. And these businesses are community anchors. And if they disappear, so do the jobs, the supply chains, and the local pride that goes with them, the culture that goes with them. So support your local business. Don't forget. Um, Next on the podcast, our second in hot topics, our second segment is in on valuation gaps, and this really came into play for me this week. as I was putting together a letter of intent for the small business that I sent one for. Um, and it is the number one reason why deals fall apart. Sellers, um, they see potential, they see legacy, see this sweat equity that they've put in to build the business over the years. Whereas buyers, we see risk, we see cash flow, we see concentration in markets. And when those two views clash, then the deal stalls and potentially falls apart. There are some ways to bridge those gaps, and I've touched on several of those in previous articles. I think one of the big things is earnouts. So creating an earnout or a pay based on future performance to close the valuation gap. Also, seller financing. This is also a preferred method from banks and the Small Business Administration, as it shows that the current owner is willing to share the risk of that transformation by offering up some of the financing. There's equity rollovers, so the owner maintains some additional investment or some additional equity into that business. And then there's various hybrid methods where you could put together two or three of those things. Um, but it is said that 50% of small business deals fail due to these valuation gaps and not being able to close those gaps. And earnouts alone increase deal success rates by almost 30%. Seller financing is the most common method used. Approximately 40% of all small business transactions have seller financing involved. And that is one of the preferred methods that I have, particularly in the deal size that I'm looking into, that $1 to $2 million deal size. It's not so big that the sellers are a complete exit, and it's not so small that generally we're talking about an all cash type of offer in order to move the owner either. So these structures can turn these stalemates into successful deals. So if you're buying or you're selling, don't just argue over the price. Get creative, see what you can work out. The idea is to both of you to walk away as happy as possible. And I read somewhere a long time ago that um, when you get to a point in a negotiation where you both feel like you're not quite getting everything you want, but you feel pretty good overall, that's usually when it's time to close that deal. All right, that's negotiation. Um, Let's see. I want to take a quick moment here, also to just say, for more insights, stories, resources on preserving Louisiana's legacy businesses, visit soslouisiana.com. My website, uh, read through my blog. It's got a lot of the same articles, but also some different ones, a lot more detail. And don't forget to support the mission by exploring exclusive merchandise available on the website. It is designed to celebrate local ownership. And don't forget to follow, share, subscribe. That is the absolute best and free way that you could show your support of our mission to keep Louisiana businesses in Louisiana hands. So don't forget, explore, engage, empower, soslouisiana.com. Um, Before moving into segment three, uh, just before this call, I was watching the Artemis 2 launch, and I don't know if a lot of you are watching that or not. I find it absolutely amazing that we're making an effort to go back to the moon, potentially build a permanent site to live and work from on the moon surface. It was within my lifetime, just barely. Okay, just not to give away my age totally. That we had our first visit to the moon, and and here we are going back again, so much later. But just wanted to give a shout out to the Artemis 2 and the art and the crew and staff that worked on such an amazing thing. All right, back to the episode. Um, Segment three of our hot topics this week is cultural fits after closing. So sent the letter of intent. Let's say we're able to make a deal. We get through contracting, financing, close the deal. Um, a lot of deals fail after closing, and so they get through all these hard transitions, and then they're going into the next phase of actually taking over the business. And the reason that many of them fail at this point, whether it's a quick death or a slow one, is often culture. So you can buy a business, but you can't buy trust. You can't buy the trust of the employees that are there. That's something that has to be earned. And if the buyer and seller don't align on leadership style, team expectations, values, things can unravel fast. Employees, key employees, can leave. Customers can feel disconnected and set aside. Vendors can decide that other businesses should have priority because they don't really want to work with you. The integration of the new and the old stalls. Um, but there's solutions, right? Doing cultural due diligence before you acquire a business, meeting with the owner, understanding who they are, who the employees are, um, building onboarding plans that retain key employees and their strengths, um, uh, align the incentives in the deal. So part of the deal structure again can be aligning incentives with integration success. Um, and there's a lot of different cultural things that we can um, uh, ensure before we close on a deal. But I think key is making sure that you keep in mind as we go into a new business, working with new people, um, to listen, learn, take some time to understand that the people. Employee turnover can increase 25% in a poorly integrated acquisition. And that's something that you want to keep to a bare minimum, especially in a smaller business where there may not be a lot of experience um, documented and in place. You've got to ensure that those things happen as part of building processes and procedures. But it doesn't just come, it doesn't necessarily mean that what you've acquired already has that. So, companies with strong cultural, uh, with a strong culture already built, see something like 40% higher employee retention post acquisition. So taking into account culture is an absolutely critical step in the success of the business going forward post acquisition. Um, oh, what I do here? I just lost my notes. That's never a good thing. There we go. Uh, moving on to the next segment, segment four, micro private equity. This is exactly what I am doing, right? So there's a lot of conversation around private equity. You see in the news, you see private equity um, slowing down in the market, losing favor. In a lot of situations. And let's not forget, private equity generally is a capital raise. So you're creating a fund, you're creating a vehicle for people to invest in, and then you're taking that money and using it to acquire things like businesses and creating a portfolio of businesses. And at some point, those investors want to take their money out, right? They want their profit, and they expect to have a profit when they get that. And the only way that private equity can do that is either a having grown those businesses enough that revenue generation and profitability is um, meeting investor expectations for them to take their money out, or um, start selling off the assets within that fund in order to be able to cash out those investors. So micro private equity is the term where, like me, it's an operator led firm. Focusing, I focus on long term growth, buying stable, cash flowing businesses using my own money and with very little investment. That may be something I look into later on in order to acquire larger, additional larger companies. But for today, it's self funded and it's about creating future value in order to be able to acquire more businesses. Now, um, One of the things that this allows me to do is offer more creative financing and flexible deals for acquisition. Um, the I can spend a lot of time putting emphasis on post-sale success, so merging with the culture, understanding the culture, than private equity might be able to do, as they have stockholder expectations or shareholder expectations. And so for sellers, it means more options as well, a chance to stay involved potentially. Uh, and for me, it's a way to build more legacy, build impact. Um, just some additional points on that. Micro private equity has grown 25% annually in the last 5 years. It is a significantly fast growing market. And these firms typically invest in businesses with annual revenues between $1 and $10 million. So that same area where I am trying to have some success in acquisitions, and then post sale involvement by the new owners, as well as by the sellers, help increase that business performance fairly quickly, in order to make sure that we're seeing successes um, through the power of keeping it local, and making sure that the community is involved in these transactions. Um, so that's it. Those are the four segments of the uh, hot topics that we have for this week. The silver tsunami coming soon, valuation gaps, cultural fit after closing, and micro private equity. Little explanation about what that is. Um, it's a wrap, I guess you could say, for this episode. If you missed the live show, you can watch the full replay on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/, at LA Biz SOS. Tonight, I'm trying something new. I'm broadcasting simultaneously in portrait and landscape on Facebook Live and YouTube. I'm hoping it works. I guess we'll find out and to find out later. And subscribe for free. Hit that notification bell to stay in tune with new episodes dropping every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Episode 10 next week. Uh, Small towns, big Louisiana heart. Don't forget to send your recommendations for the new series. And until next time, keep Louisiana locally owned, shop local, support your local businesses. Peace, y'all.